This 1 Degree Outside video is sponsored by the Topsfield Fair, America's oldest fair. You can pre-order your admission, meal, and ride tickets today at topsfieldfair.org and join the fun October 4th through 14th, conveniently located on Route 1, just off of Interstate 95.
Hi, Matt Noyes, Wednesday Insights. As we look at the midweek, of course, my goal is to get you through the weekend, make it so you can plan pretty nicely. And I also do that deeper dive into the meteorology in this Insights as well, right? There's no question the big meteorology story is Francine, the tropical system coming into the Gulf Coast. Well, the other big part of that, though, is the big dome of high pressure that's protecting us here at home and protecting a lot of the Northeast and the northern tier of the United States from the vast amounts of moisture. We looked yesterday at storm surge and wind and total rain with a storm center, right? But on water vapor imagery, you can see in the white and green where there's a lot of moisture, and then you can see in yellow where there's a lot of dry air. We certainly fall into that drier air, and we keep getting these northern stream disturbances coming through Canada that keep kind of reinforcing some of that dry air as well. What's interesting is to look at the atmospheric energy, and we can plot that in yellows and oranges, and where it's really intense, it shows up in purple, and certainly you can see that associated with Francine. Here comes the energy. It slows and it stalls across the south central United States. What's interesting as we head into the upcoming weekend is we start to see a bit of a transfer of some of that atmospheric energy off the coastline. So we actually end up by next week getting almost two different centers. Now, this wouldn't still be Francine that develops over the ocean. This is kind of leftover Francine. But you are filtering some of that energy little by little out into a developing ocean storm. Well, this continues to become what ends up being the dominant feature on the weather map as we head into next week. It backs to the north and west. And then at that point, we may get into some of the moisture on the north side of that. Now, this is why yesterday in Insights, I told you, so it's like the 20th or 21st that you see the chance of rain increase in New England. But that's the story with it. And that's why I had mentioned kind of in passing yesterday. And some of that has to do with the moisture and energy of Francine. That's the story behind it in terms of how things would be shaping up. That, of course, being that far out, middle of next week, end of next week is far from set in stone. When you look at the total rain, let's say through the middle of next week, we don't really have much to say, well, I see a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit, and I'll show you why. It actually comes when we get to Friday, perhaps, and some spots Saturday, but it's not a big deal. Obviously, the big kind of epic rain totals of over 10 inches of rain are either going to be where Francine comes in off the Gulf or where that ocean storm kind of takes shape as we get through the weekend into early next week. In terms of the surface map, it all kind of plays out exactly as you would expect based on what I just showed you. Big dome of high pressures in charge. I mentioned that we do get these northern stream disturbances that come zipping through Canada. Well, one of them is going to end up bringing us a reinforcing cold front. And I mentioned this yesterday, the fact that it arrives on Friday. This does raise the chance of at least a passing shower during the course of the day on Friday as that front drops in on top of us. Particularly, you can see here as we head to Friday evening with a timestamp in the upper left. It has nothing to do with Francine, and actually the opposite. Everything to do with the fact that we're getting another shot of kind of reinforcing dry air coming in from Canada. By Saturday, there may be a pop-up shower from a cumulus cloud, a fair weather cloud across the mountains of northern New England, but most of us would be just fine for Saturday. We look very good for Sunday. Here's that storm taking shape down to the south as we head into the end of the weekend, and that, of course, is what picks up the story from what I just showed you. Worth mentioning, wildfire smoke not really visible in the sky today. You might notice the blue being a little bit off by the end of the day. But Thursday, we get a little bit more in the way of wildfire smoke. And then by the time we get along about Friday, look at this is pre-dawn Friday, but you're getting ready for another round to come in on top of us. So you are going to start to see that back in the sky. We'll see if Friday, if it comes low enough that you'd actually be able to smell it with the fact that you've got that backdoor front coming in. It may mix the atmosphere a little bit and allow for that to happen, but unlikely to be the case on Thursday. Thursday's high temperatures rebounding to about 80. Admittedly, when you get near the coastline, you're a little bit cooler than that. Thursday or night, we're looking at temperatures that go down into the 50s. Friday, 80s. Yeah, so this is where that backdoor cold front is. I call it a backdoor front. Those are the ones that come in from the northeast. Technically, this is coming in from the north, but by the time it gets to eastern Mass on Friday evening, it may have turned into a backdoor cold front, and that would be coming in from the northeast, produce a northeast wind Friday night into Saturday, at least at the coastline. Notice the elevated chance of showers on Friday. When you come south, it's mostly, as we looked at in the evening, that you have that 30% chance. I wouldn't call it an overwhelming chance. I don't think you need to plan around it. A lot of southern New England right now will keep an eye on it. Saturday, again, that 50% chance of a pop-up shower in the mountains mostly. You're good. Again, you can kind of see the result, though, of that onshore flow when you come to the Cape. It's 70 to 75 degrees, the cooler air that's in parts of Maine. And the farther west you go, the more you're kind of outside of the influence of that northeast onshore wind. Sunday looks really good Up into the 80s we go. And you know what? We start out next week on an equally favorable note. I don't always give you the 14-day because I always just encourage you. Danielle and I both say just use the app. But it does help to tell the trend. And so in this case, the reason we're showing you is because the trend, certainly aside from that limited chance of a shower Friday, is when you get to the middle and end of next week, particularly the 19th, 20th, you start to see that chance of showers begin to rise because of that storm that's developing over the ocean down to the south. And we'll see what happens with it. Honestly, the reason you never see over 50% of chance of rain in that forecast is because we think there's about an equal chance it ends up just staying south of us. We don't get into much of it. So it could be dry for quite a while to come. It looks like it will be, certainly overall. Grab the app. That's the best way to do it. You can always stay on top of the 14-day, both on the App Store and Google Play. Just search Noises 1 degree outside weather. Hope you like this. Hope this deeper dive helps you out plan out the weekend. Not too bad. We'll just keep an eye on Friday evening in particular. Look forward to seeing you at 1degreeoutside.com later in the day.